everybody. Welcome back to the after party. I was going to say we've stolen a Tobin, but we've got a Tobin whose Amish beard is looking very well tonight. Very well. I'm not going to say what I described Sammy as when we were off camera because that's not YouTube friendly. But we've got Sammy, the mobile 420 atheist. And Pixie, if Pixie's there, we've got Pixie. And of course our main our main guest of honour tonight, who would be the Reverend Ron, who is what, Len of Dians? No, we're not going to throw you to the lions. I'll throw you to the lions. We'll be nice. We'll be nice. But we were just discussing, Tobin was just asking before we came on stream about the charismatic, don't fucking run away. Come back with your beautiful face. Was just asking about the charismatic, I can't even remember, Pentecostal.
Yeah.
Charismatic Pentecostal and how he came to that. So if you want to continue that or go on with that, or if you have another question, or free for all, jump at him. Lions.
Yeah, by charismatic, I mainly, I've said this already, I mainly mean that God still is active and miracles are still possible. That he's not become the far out there Platonic God that doesn't have anything to do with us.
Which, that ties into what we're talking about just before we went live, is that we're, in agreement that truth is what comports with reality. And you're saying that, you see this working in your life. And like, what do those kind of experiences look like?
Well, a spiritual experience, by definition, I would say, is ineffable. It's not entirely explainable to another person. What?
No. That in itself causes a problem to me. If I say that this thing by definition can't be described or proven, then that to me is, I don't know, is it a category error or is it, I'm not sure of the actual definition, but in my brain, that don't make sense. As you said earlier, looking for philosophy and logic to ground your morals and stuff, so you would be a believer in logic. But that logically, to me, doesn't make sense.
Well, it doesn't. It's not evidence to you. I'm not going to say it is.
Oh, no. Man, I've had my own personal experiences and stuff like that. Long story short, everybody in the channel's heard it. My old name used to be Magic Pagan. And that magic in the middle of the name was the definition I used for... the reasoning I used for using that in the 3-part name was experiences that I can't yet explain. So I have had personal experiences that are... I haven't a fucking clue. I'm leaning more towards fucking telekinesis, Kyle, than I would be God. But I've had some fucking experiences, that is very hard to explain. So I get where you're coming from. But the fact that I've had a personal experience and the fact that you've had one, it means that we can both have that conversation about our personal experience, or we can both go, yes, we've experienced it, but there's nothing to compare. Like, if Tobin said to me, girlfriend stuck a finger up my bum last night, I'm going to have a finger put up my bum to understand that. I have to have the same experience to get it. If he said to me, I had a sexual experience with a wife and I had one with a girlfriend, then we can both go, yeah, great weekend. But there's no comparison there. You need something to ground it on to make it, I wouldn't say real, but, love the Geo in the chat. Thank you again, Geo, for the cue. But
can I tell an experience that I had that I don't know what caused it?
Yeah.
Go for it, man. Yeah. We can get Ron's input, but I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Let me set up how this happened. Like, I live in the woods, and there's a house behind us, and the people let us hang out. We hang out with them and stuff. And our house, you have to go through a ditch, and we got woods all around us. And then on the other side, on our place, there's a road, and it opens up to where there's a big field.
We call that the hole in the hedge, like a shortcut home.
And we had gotten home, and I sat down behind my house. I was on the back of my house, and my wife was walking up to the front by the road, and I was staring off into the woods, and this extremely bright blue light lit up the woods.
Aliens.
It lit it up to where I could see it, and it happened in a flash. And Kendra saw it in the sky, and how she explained it to me is she saw like a ball, and it went into a point. It just got smaller and smaller and went off into the distance.
Aliens.
Like, I have no idea what the heck that was.
Yeah.
But I experienced that.
I don't know how it relates, but definitely go and check out ball lightning.
Yeah.
People have captured that shit now, and it's insane. I don't understand. I don't even know if it's real. On the
seen
fence.
stuff on it.
Shush! I'm gonna be let Ron retort to that.
Okay, let me offer this then. So, before I believed,
you, SAMMY.
right? Before I believed in Jesus fully, right? I was doing an intellectual journey. I was studying, and I was doing philosophy and logic. I was reading the Bible, and I was trying to make sense of the Bible. I approached the Bible assuming it should make sense, right? So if I don't understand something, then I'm missing something, right?
That I find, I'm sorry to interrupt into your trail of thought, but that I find is a problem, man. When I approach something expecting it to give me an answer, and already in my head knowing if I come out with something from that book that I find is wrong, it's my problem for lack of understanding. Unless it was a math book or a physics book, but a philosophy book, you know, like I can come away from math going, I don't know what an imaginary number is. That's my own fault for not studying hard enough. But going at a religious book, something that can define your moral foundation, and already going into it going, this is going to give me the answer, and if it doesn't, it's my fault. This is where I was talking about with the guilt that comes with Christianity, that falls upon you. I'm going to mute now.
Well, it wasn't that I thought that it should give me the answer or such as that, but that it had a point that I ought to be able to understand. I ought to understand its point but internally. That's what I mean by that, and to see if it did make internal sense.
My friend Richard, I was telling him last night, and we watched your wee short video together and stuff and all. Like, he's interested to have a conversation with you. He is a heretic. He is a Christian that would lean towards sort of like an ancient theory. It's all one religion. You know, there is the stuff that's in the Bible that has been told is all prophetic, and it's all aimed at Jesus. It's none of it's for us, and it's all happened before on a previous planet, and it's due to happen here. He wants to talk to you. The point I'm bringing it up is reading the Bible and getting an interpretation. Richard got that interpretation. I know I'm using him as my token heretic, but sorry, Richard, we know you love you. But it just goes to show that you can have any interpretation or any. How do you know that this is the one? Like when you say you go to it to get the right interpretation, how do you know this is the correct one? How do you know?
Before you answer that, I just want to go back to Tobin's question. I missed something how your answer tied into Tobin's question.
Okay, well, I've not got to the point yet.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun again.
Let's do some charitable listening.
The point I'm getting at is the charismatic part. To have maybe an illustration of the charismatic part. That's what I'm trying to get at. So, anyways, I'm thinking that I'm approaching the text as though it should have it sense in itself, internal sense, and it's not that Okay, so anyways, I get to the point of where am I going to believe in Jesus or not? Right? I'm fairly convinced intellectually from multiple angles, and but of course the last hurdle for me is the resurrection. It's like, how does that happen? It doesn't make any sense.
Richard has an answer for that.
So that was my last hurdle. So one of the that's it. Let me focus. Eventually, I come to the point where I say to myself, so I pray to God, right? I'm like, look, I feel like as I'm doing this, I feel like I'm pursuing truth, right? That the goal in front of me is truth that I'm walking towards. And that's what keeps me walking, right? Because I feel like there's truth out ahead of me, and I'm gonna go grab a hold of that. And then there's the next station is like, oh well, there's more truth. I feel like there's more truth out there, so I'm gonna go grab it. And then I got to this point where I felt like I was at a wall, but I felt like I could still perceive truth beyond that wall, but I couldn't get to it. That's how I felt about it. And so at that point, I prayed and I said, Lord, I said a prayer. All right, Lord, not my wisdom, but yours. I obviously don't have enough to understand, but I would take all of my wisdom and throw it out if you would give me yours. And I felt like I had revelation at that point, that the Bible revealed itself to me, to a very large degree.
Yeah. And I guess my only retort, and where my mind gets stuck, is back where Robbie mentioned that Christianity, especially the Bible, expects you to presuppose certain things going into it, which you've sort of said yourself. You looked at it as though it had to make sense within itself, which most scholars have come to agree that it doesn't make sense within itself, because it is a bunch of individual stories that often overlap or contradict each other. But if you've gone in saying this must make sense, you then actively go about making it make sense. And that's my sort of issue with that perspective.
That's possible. I mean,
Xy's unmuted.
I don't think I did. I don't think I did that. It's possible.
Well, my question came from a very similar direction, right? Because, like, I often see people who deconvert who feel, like, angry with religion, right? Like they were blindsided with the negatives. And then I see people who grew up in the negative, right? Seeing the negative, who convert and they have this to a very positive outlook, right? And so for me, I don't fit either of those. Like I've never had I've always seen the good and the bad. I've never had an unfavorable opinion of it, but I've never been convinced either, right? So that feeling of sweeping away all the negative in order to search for the positive, I was wondering how much that influenced your perception of like the validity of the text.
I don't think I swept away the negative. I didn't overlook it. I was well aware of the negative. I was just seeing charitably. I attempted to approach it with charity. Is what was my goal.
Okay, thank you.
And
did you? If I can ask
ahead.
a question on this topic, you went from. I know that you said after you left Christ, went anti-theistic. You went angry, pissed off, and stuff. Are you not moving, or is the screen paused? Oh no, he is moving. That's all right. Sometimes when you stop, man, and look dead still, and you've had internet issues, you're like, is it happening again?
Well,
I don't know. He's not blinking. Waiting for the blink.
I live in rural Arkansas, so my internet is dicey.
a personal testimony, analogous as it is, when I was an anti-theist, I was angry against God. You can't be angry against something unless you think there's something there. Then you went sort of into the idea of Norse paganism. So from what I'm gathering from that, as I say, adding my personal experience of an anti-theist to it, you can't be angry at something unless you think there's something there. Excuse me. There's never a loss of that idea of the supernatural. There's never a loss of that, higher echelon, especially in the culture and the age. If you don't mind me guessing, man, you're in around the same age as me, about 40s or so, like that. The culture that we've grown up with, ancient aliens on TV, all these stories and stuff, these things influence who we are, and may have lost my trail of thought there for a wee second. Refresh me.
Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Completely went out of my fucking mind because I said ancient aliens and thought Richard and bubble. Yep, no, lost it. Completely lost it.
If I could bring it back.
Yeah, help me. What were you talking about?
My question was like, how do you see it working in your life? And please correct me if I'm not saying it correctly, but you're saying that you had a revelation because of prayer, and that
back to me.
That God gave you the way to the revelation that it was true, or like how do you see it? How did that make it to where it was something that you could, it was comporting with reality?
I'm gonna let the dog out. You discuss that. He's crying.
Okay. Well, for one, the mere perception that prayer was answered is in itself a comporting with truth. That something happened, right? I prayed and something happened. So that in itself to me is an experience of truth, right? I would say. And one thing that's is my approach to the Bible is probably different than most that you are familiar with. Most people, because like I said, I'm an adult convert, so I didn't ever grow up in church. I didn't have necessarily a tradition handed to me.
Okay.
And so, like, I'm not a typical inerrantist type, right? I'm not going to say that every single letter, dot, tittle of the Bible is 100% true factually, and I'm not going to say that I wouldn't even say that the flood necessarily must have happened literally in reality to be because the Bible says so, right? I'm not
like you're not taking it as it is a literal worldwide flood.
Maybe, I don't know.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, as I am an inerrantist in that the Bible is inerrant to its purpose, which then I would say the purpose of the Bible is to reveal Jesus.
Well, how does Jesus then, like, can you come to Jesus without the Bible?
I would think so if you're to a degree. I mean, certainly.
Special revelation.
Yeah, and communion with other believers and fellowshipping and learning from them or whatever. I mean, but the Bible is our source for Jesus. Yeah.
Inerrant, though.
Can I ask my question now while I still remember it?
Yeah.
You went anti-theist, as I said, being, you're angry at something, angry at humans, you want to pick this. And you went Norse paganism. That, to me, what I'm inferring from is there's never a loss of a belief in the supernatural. That's where I was going with what's on TV and things like that. Always being reinforced at our stage. you know, there was that quantum mysticism coming about and things like that. So the idea of not losing the supernatural, regardless of whether being a Christian or not, was, I wouldn't say normal, or it would be expected. Would it be expected would be a good word? You know, it's just, it's always there. It's not something you lost. It's something you picked up. So
I've always believed that there's more to a human being than can be measured
by scientific, yeah. Right. So yeah, anything that can't be measured by scientific means would be by definition supernatural. Supernatural by definition is something that can't be measured by scientific means. Yeah. If we're going to stick a definition on something, that would be the definition I would go for. A supernatural event. Fair. If something is supernatural, it cannot be measured by scientific means because it is outside of nature. It is supernatural.
Okay, it's fair enough.
I would go with that definition. Tobin's little eyes and cogs are going in his mind. He's like, I'm trying to... Do I agree with that definition? Do you?
Oh, yeah, with what you're saying, is that... Yeah, with supernatural...
Being outside nature.
Happens in nature. Once it happens in nature, it's no longer supernatural. So... Therefore, how could that experience even happen?
It can, okay,
to me, it's a contradiction. It's
okay, I'll rephrase it better. Supernatural would be something that cannot be explained by natural means.
Okay, yeah. That's a definition.
So it can exist and happen in our reality, but cannot be explained by natural means. Therefore, it is supernatural. If it is by that definition, then you cannot measure it with scientific means, because scientific means measures reality.
Yeah, material reality. I might say.
Materialism.
But that
not
part
materialist, but
But that part of like us that is not measurable.
Do you think if a ghost walked into the room?
What part of us isn't measurable though?
Our conscience is measurable.
Our conscious can be measured. It can, to a certain degree. I could put you in an MRI machine and measure your conscious mind and your brain when certain things happen. I can say love happens here. I can say memory happens here. I can say math happens here. I can say your general character probably comes from this sort of area.
Maybe.
Like, we don't know what the brain is. Well, no, that's a bad phrasing. We haven't figured out how the brain works 100% physically, but we can tell that consciousness is an emergent property. But I
don't think we can.
Is that your dog licking the plate, or is that my dog licking the plate in the living room? Where's my dog? I can hear somebody at a plate, and I left a plate on the coffee table with a fucking sausage on it that we couldn't be eating it. But yeah, I would say
I don't think we can definitively say that we can't 100% say consciousness is emergent from the physical brain. I think that we can say that there is definitely a correlation between the brain and consciousness.
Correlation, not causation.
But we can't say there's a one-to-one.
It's pretty amazing some of the stuff they've come out with, like
I don't say
to analyze our dreams. Like they're able to put us in a machine and analyze our dreams and bring up faces and things that we're seeing. Like they have ideas of like what we're thinking, like in our dream state. It is a trip how much they are able to see the inner workings.
Funny thing about
happening.
The funny thing about that is it's still so little. Like we know so much, but it's still such a small percentage of that. So when I make these statements saying, "Oh no, we know it's an emergent property," I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying the evidence goes this. The evidence leads us. The scientific medical evidence leads us to infer that it is an emergent property. I'm not saying that there's a fucking rubber stamp on it, but there's a I don't mean to come across like that, but
Okay.
There's not a rubber stamp on it, but
there-
I'm just saying the physical evidence leans that way. Like if I'm figuring out lightning and my next door neighbor thinks it's Thor, and I go, no, it's fucking electrical things that are attached to metal shit, and I put a lightning rod out and it strikes it, that's where we're at with the brain. We don't know anything else about lightning except that it strikes metal things and needs to be earthed. We know it's electricity.
Well,
that's it. We don't know how it's created in the clouds. Like the brain is so... We're down here. Figuring it out is way up here. We just know some cool shit.
Is my mic all right?
No, nobody can hear you.
Fuck off. Speaking of emergent, being an emergent property.
Are you an emergent property
So
of this
they
panel?
are now... they by I mean science, we're sort of at the point now where we can literally get someone to think something. We know where to read their brain, and we can then recreate the image that they're thinking. And I do believe the latest I read is that they put it on a screen, so it's almost like we can watch someone's thoughts on the screen. It's sort of like if you imagine someone who's almost legally blind but can see shadows. That's what it's like. So if they imagine a castle, you can make out that it's a castle.
Yeah.
That they're thinking. Do you know what I mean?
You can't tell how many
vision
windows...
It's just not very sharp.
Yeah, you can't tell how many windows it has and whether the drawbridge is up or down, but you can see that there's a castle there. Yeah.
So to me, that just points even further to the fact that it's nothing external.
Right.
We can now read minds scientifically, you know what I mean?
Right, well, I have a question for you, right? And I'll put this to you from a Christian point of view, considering that I have discussed... my mum would turn up in the chat sometimes, Reverend. I was sort of hoping she would do the night. I would call her a spiritual Christian. She raised me in a Christian household, sent me to fucking 2 different... churches and stuff, and I was very much into religion, but she never pushed it. She always pushed a skeptical mind and stuff. I even went up into the attic and got the old book, 500 Questions and Answers. It's now beside the daughter's bed. Yay. Anyway, but the reason here, she had an out-of-body experience that she can describe to you in full story. Now, I don't have the ability to go and talk to the doctor. I don't have the ability to talk to any of the nurses. I can't back this up in any way. And this happened during my brother's birth. My brother is 35, right? So it's a wee while ago, but it's a story that my mother's always told me, that she died during hospital when she was giving birth. And they brought her back through medical needs and this, that and the other. And the doctor did actually slap her. It was the 80s. You could get away with it, so she says. And she then dragged back into the body, and she remembers being floating outside of the body. She remembers all of this, and she could see it from her point of view. Right? Now, she woke up after this and asked what happened because she knew something was wrong. The doctor told her she died for a wee while, and that's all I'm sure he probably said. He didn't go into the details of slapping her and all the rest of it. I'm sure my mother has exaggerated that little part of the story.
That's possible.
But I guarantee you that she believes that she had an out-of-body experience. Regardless of the details, I guarantee you that she believes that she floated above the body and she witnessed that. I've had dreams where I've witnessed myself in not a third-person sort of shooter game or whatever, but we've had that experience subconsciously. And when you're at that stage physically and you're dying, your brain does get flooded with hormones, and this, that, and the other happens, and you know, your body wants you to go out happy. Your body's main job, unconsciously, is to look after you for your best possible needs.
Yeah.
So, you know, having a dream, I don't know. You get the point I'm making. I'm leaning it towards you now. It's the floor's yours.
Well, what's fascinating, though, is if the mind is an emergent property, the consciousness is an emergent property of the physical brain, what about hallucinogenic experiences? We would expect if the mind, consciousness, was an emergent property of the physical brain, whenever people are hallucinating, we would expect the brain to be firing off big time.
Well, I am
but
going
it
to
doesn't.
I am going to send you studies of people on DMT and LSD and them being heroin addicts that have tried everything and can't, and taking a fucking whack of DMT and their brain firing in every direction, rewiring itself to the way it should. You know, this is wrong. These are burnt out. And then people waking up, and from that spiritual experience, that experience that they've had, they then are cured and have no withdrawal. They are a hell of a lot better afterwards. Now,
what is that?
DMT is DMT.
It's
Is,
crazy though.
But what's happening? I don't know. I don't understand.
We do naturally produce a hallucinogenic substance within our bodies, right? That's kind of how we dream at night.
Yes, that's
kind
what
of a
DMT
trip,
is.
right?
Yeah.
And when you pass away, and actually right after you're born,
Yep.
your brain releases a massive amount of that
Yep.
hallucinogen.
It can be right. You've heard of witch doctors in the fucking Amazon, yes? That sort of stereotypical idea, the idea of a shaman and stuff, and they go and smoke a pipe and talk to the spirits. That idea, that story is based on them smoking a tree bark mixed with this other thing. It's called ayahuasca, and it is a DMT source that you can get from a mixture of these two things. The tree bark makes you sick. The other stuff tries to hold it down, but you can chemically create DMT. If you chemically create it, it's a white powder, and you have to smoke it in a crack pipe. And I'll be honest with you, man, I know a guy that's big into his psychedelics and stuff like that, and his friend got this stuff over from two sources, made DMT, and offered it to me. I have only ever tried weed. I have tried mushrooms once, and that's it. Right? But he offered me this knowing that I had an interest in DMT, but I won't take it in that form. If I was to take DMT, I would go to a spiritual retreat, which you can go to for 250 quid for 3 days in fucking Spain. And you go and hippie it out and be all 60s and drink some ayahuasca 2 nights of the week. And I would go there for that spiritual experience, because I think in that setting, it's not that I'm going to see Mother Ayahuasca. It's not that I'm going to... You look DMT up online, and there's guys that'll describe it as being dumped down a kaleidoscope of colours. It's the most beautiful and amazing thing that you've ever seen in your entire life. And you go and talk to a guy who lives in the woods that takes it once a month, and he goes and talks to Mother Ayahuasca, and he feels better about himself. It's a situational thing and how you react to it.
Yeah.
And I know if them motherfuckers that would have offered it to me seen me tweaking, they'd have probably put a bag over my head and went, ah! And scared the fuck out of me. They're bad cunts like that. That's what friends do over here. But I would rather have that spiritual experience, so to speak, that spiritual retreat where 90% of the people there are there to see Mother Ayahuasca. I'm there to see Mother Ayahuasca as well, but from a chemical stance. Mother Ayahuasca, in my mind, that thing that they see, that experience that they see, is my brain rewiring. I see it as my subconscious. As Pixie says, the brain, this is the fuel for dreaming. And I see it as it's unconscious and the conscious mind not coming to peace with each other. But, you know, we don't understand the brain. You've got your conscious, your unconscious.
Yeah.
We don't understand it. And I see taking something like that in that situation as being able to deal with your demons, to coin a phrase, you know, being able to deal with these sort of things. That's what I see them seeing as an answer to your question. Short version.
Well, it's certainly, I think, safe to say that it's indeterminate right now. We don't know as much as we'd like to think at this point we would know about the brain, mind and the brain.
Okay, now, I'm going to agree with that as long as you don't follow the statement up with, or lean to the statement, the fact that we don't know means it must be God. As long as you don't go down that road, we're good.
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to go that way.
I'm only making.
I'm just saying that it's still a very open question.
I don't know is a valid answer all the time.
Yeah,
Tobin. I don't know what Tobin wants, but
yeah, go ahead.
You know, I've heard a lot of people talk about how their hallucinogenic experiences brought them to that spiritual side, but mine took me to a whole different, like, I became more skeptical, and I've taken a lot of mushrooms and a lot of LSD, a lot more than a lot of other people, and I'm not really proud of it, but I've had extremely adventurous experiences on that stuff. But I realized that what I was seeing and those things, all these beautiful colors and patterns that would just come out of everything, were not real. Like, as soon as I tried to like touch them and tried to like be able to be like, oh, this is something that's actually real. No, it's not a face. It's, you know, a large face. It's a tree, you know. It's just, you know, the way the light is hitting it, it's bending it and making it look like a big face.
If I
It's
could,
talking at you. You know, it's just like your mind can take you, your imagination can take you to many different places, and what you make of it is like what kind of controls it. Like, I've taken it enough to where like I've had really bad experiences, and I had taken it enough to where like whenever I started feeling anxiety and things like that, I was able to calm myself and not allow the drug to completely, you know,
yeah,
make me have a bad trip.
Yeah,
know,
you control
basically.
your
I don't
trip,
want to
yeah,
go
yeah.
into a bad mood. I started being able to like really understand what kind of moods I was going through and not allowing my emotions to really control me. I became very stoic, like very introverted, and also very you know, like I don't just accept what my eyes see right off the bat. Like, I need to be able to verify. I need to be able to see this. Like, I need other people to share the experience with me. Like, it made me more skeptical. It's just, I don't know. That's my little piece on that.
That's
As-
interesting.
I'll be real quick and then we'll just move it to Pixie, right? From someone who's never experienced it, but from someone who has been around people who have, an awful lot of people who have, and described it back to me. I love Amsterdam, man. I know Amsterdam better than Belfast. Belfast's only 40 minutes up the fucking road. But the way I would describe, the way that I come across that, I think about it in my mind. So when someone describes it to me, how I think of it is that do you know what a substrate is?
A substrate.
Something that's built upon something. So like if you were growing bacteria, the substrate would be the petri dish. You know, it's the thing that it's in, the thing that it's grown upon, the thing that
It's like framework in a way.
framework. Brilliant analogy, right? So the way I have taken it is that your unconscious mind, this was talking to Ramy about DMT, his unconscious mind took control of the substrate of his reality. So his conscious mind was surrounded by his unconscious so he could sort shit out. It's like walking through his problems. So the substrate is changed from reality where your conscious mind is, and the unconscious mind becomes the substrate. Your dream world becomes the substrate. Not to say that you're lucid dreaming, because you're clearly unaware that you're tripping while you're tripping. But as I say, this is how I have not vicariously experienced it, but this is how I see it from them, that the unconscious mind has become the substrate rather than reality that we live in while you're still...
No, there is. You're absolutely right with that. There is self-reflection. You know, I there was so many of those trips where I just became by myself. You know, even though I was with the party, you know, I eventually kind of made it to my own little spot and just kind of like started self-reflecting. I would eventually join the group and stuff, but there are those moments where it just like it takes you down that ride.
I watched a video that would
crazy.
probably have been somebody who was of the same beliefs as Ox. Sorry, Ron, I think we're diverging here, tangent. We're ignoring you. I know it's your show. I'll finish this up. We'll give it back. Probably would have been in the same beliefs that Ox. He was a Native American. He was a young lad. Now, he was only maybe in his 20s or so. He was probably experimenting. Oh, we lost 420, lost Sammy. Excuse me. But he was describing his trip, and he had lost his best friend in a car accident, I think it was, like a year ago. And during that trip, for his first DMT trip, he seen his best friend. And he had a conversation with his best friend and this, that, and the other. And I can totally understand how people would see that as a spiritual experience. But I could also probably explain that as his unconscious, not guilt, because he wasn't in the car, not survivor guilt or anything, but just this dealing of loss. You know, I have a friend and I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to get closure. And, you know, you can get closure standing at a graveyard sometimes. You can stand above that tombstone. I'm sure he went to his best friend's grave and was at the funeral, but didn't get that mental closure that he needed. He physically needed to be in front of that person. And experiencing the DMT trip is like, you know, Star Trek holodeck. We've literally got them in front of us now. So we can actually get what our mental mind needs, our mental health, can find that balance between the loss that we're feeling in our unconscious mind and our life that we have to deal with in our conscious mind.
Building on that, MathPig, like, and what Tobin said, actually, you know the saying that children, like, are more in tune with the quote-unquote spiritual world than adults?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Right. I often wonder how much of that is their imagination, because, like you were saying, how it made you skeptical, right? I can point to very natural events when my kid was very small that did the same kind of things. For example, the only time I've ever seen her really terrified was when she was about 6. Like, and things don't really scare her now. Like, scary movies don't scare her. Those things do not scare her. But when she was about 5 or 6, her and all her friends were into the Slender Man stories.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And you know the saying, the more that you know about him, the closer he gets, right? So I
just know of it. I didn't know that, but that's
okay.
Fucked up. Like, you know, we're gonna teach.
So she ran outside, right? And she runs back in, and she is just screaming, and she is bawling, and it's dark outside, okay? And she's crying, and she's like, "Mom, I saw him. He is coming for me," right? She is adamant. Slender Man is coming for me, and there's just tears, and I'm trying to calm her down, right? And I'm like, okay, well, he only gets closer, right? And she's like, right. I'm like, all right. So if I go outside with you and we don't see him, then he's not coming for you, right? She's like, right. I'm like, okay. So I take her by the hand and I walk her outside. She looks across the street and starts screaming again. She jumps on top of me and she's like, Mom, he's right there. He's right there. She's freaking out. And I am laughing hysterically while I walk her across the street because I have put 2 and 2 together. And right across the street, right, there's a fence, there's ivy growing on the fence that oddly enough looked exactly like a suit and tie.
If you have that, but
and above that is a piece of white backboard from a basketball hoop showing through the branches of the trees, right, making it look like a white face. And I had to get closer to show her exactly what was going on. And ever since then, you know, she sees a shadow in the night and she gets up, she rationalizes it, right?
Yeah. No, I'm going to say one story of my wee girl and then I'm going to give it to Ron to ask us questions.
Right. But if nobody explained it, she would think she saw him. That's
it. It's overcoming fears. It's rewiring them, you know. I threw my wee, well, I didn't throw her in the pool. I stood up and she didn't want to jump in. So it's like, way, and then take a step back and let her splash. Hated me. Now you can take her to the pool and she does laps of it. Now there's a current in the river, but she can do laps with the fucking thing. And the only thing she's afraid of is a big heavy chunk of water that comes down. It's that heavy it would push her under. It's quite funny. She tries to grab on when she gets past it and shimmy past and the kind of, anyway, but it's overcoming fears, especially at a young age. Like, the ages between 1 and 5, in my personal opinion, from what I've read, are the most precious fucking years to set that in. When she was afraid of ghosts, someone actually suggested to me a dream catcher. You know, run with the idea. Reinforce the idea that if there was no getting rid of the idea that she believed in ghosts now. Some cunt at school fucking said it, tell her that's it, it's ingrained, you know. My friend believes it, she believes it. But run with it, but give her control of it. As Pixie did, you know, you're afraid of it, confront of it. You're afraid of the ghosts, we'll catch them in the dream catcher, we'll put it out the room, you know. Take control of their fears. Ron, save me before I fucking ramble on.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that, like, just because you've experienced something that makes it real. There's still a process of determining on that. I just think that it's fascinating. I think one thing is, I think it's related. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm going tangent, moving the goalpost or something. But
we haven't tangent at all.
We we're like very, as far as I can tell in my reading on the subject, we're still not very close to a significant artificial intelligence, and I find that fascinating. I would think if consciousness was reducible to the brain, that we would have had that figured out long ago.
Why?
Whoa, I mean, there is
But
some
we don't
really
have the
big
brain figured
advancements.
out.
Oh
Like
no,
Sophia.
okay. No. Let me reset that. Okay, that was the wrong statement. If the mind was reducible to computing power, obviously AI would have been figured out 50 years ago. If it was just a matter of computation.
Right.
Right,
It comes
but
down to at a certain point. It does come down to computational power. Even at the level we are at now, on the standard sort of capacitors and stuff that we're using, the fact it's a physical ones and zero, until we jump to quantum computers, we are limited physically by the things that we need. For us to create a virtual reality world with this was when it was 6.5, 7 billion people on the planet. For us to create a computer that in the state and the type of computers that we are using now, to be able to give everybody on the planet, consciousness, so to speak, their own choices and stuff like that, the computational power that would be needed would be greater than the size of the Earth. We would literally need to, like, 2 Marses turned into computers because of the physical size of the computer that we need for the computational power. It's not the fact that we haven't figured it out. It's the fact that we are limited by our technology. Like AI and machine learning is where people are going now, because a computer can machine learn quicker than us. Give a computer 6 months looking at pictures of cancer, it's got an 89 to 94% rating of picking cancer from a fucking picture better than a doctor. But that's machine learning. That's different. To give everybody a consciousness and have everybody think for themselves, it is a physical problem that we have. Firm's law or something, for every 2 years the transistors get smaller, but we're approaching that level of physical where we just can't get any smaller. The computational power is limited by the physical size of the computer. I think I'm done moving around. Yeah, I'm going to sit back now and do this.
Well, I mean, that's possible. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a artificial intelligence scientist. I've
Nerdy that was in the chat earlier. Nerdy that was in the chat earlier has one of the fucking really good GPUs and does AI learning. Follow Nerdy Rodent online on Twitter. It's at Nerdy Rodent, and he uses his AI to make pictures and blend people together and stuff like that. He plays with machine learning and stuff. So if you're interested in AI, I would definitely reach out to a conversation with Nerdy. You mightn't get him on. Doesn't come on that often. And when he does, he's an animated pickle with a punk rock sort of look. Quite cool. But if you're talking AI, Twitter, Nerdy's your man to hit up for that there. He has an interest in it. He could give you more information than me. And probably tell me that I'm full of shit. It was 3 Marses instead of 2, but it's the physical limit. Once we hit quantum computing, I'm done. I think I'm done. We'll be rounding up now in the next 15-20 minutes anyway, because it's getting sort of late.
Yeah.
So, Ron, have you any questions now or any insights listening to some personal testimonies and some what could be direct, what could be interpreted as spiritual experiences that all 3 of us have described tonight? Except for Pixie, she went and destroyed hers. Bad tree. But
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting that we share that experience. I mean,
human nature.
Yeah. Well, I just don't think we can reduce a human being to ones and zeros, right? I mean, so to say.
Everything is fucking grey. Everything is grey. There's no ones and zeros in it.
Well, something, one of the things earlier on in my life, I really bought into, a hard dualism, mind-body separation. That's an absolute error for sure, I think, now. I don't think there's a hard separation between mind and body. I think there is some separation. And I don't know what it is. I've recently explored the concept of idealism, and I find it fairly convincing. Which, under this idea that the mind and body is not completely separated, or the mind and body is not completely separated, but the mind is previous to the body and filtered through the body.
There would be another echelon, or there would be another universe, or another dimension, or something like that, where our consciousness would reside in a supernatural world.
Yeah. It's possible, yeah. That consciousness precedes
physical body.
reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen that movie with Robin Williams, where he dies and then he ends up fighting his way through hell to go save the wife. That's
what dreams may come.
One of my
Oh man, that one was that I think that one did make me tear up.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's one. Like, if you want to cry with the girlfriend and the girlfriend's like, you don't have a feminine side, watch What Dreams May Come. You will not be able to not cry, no matter how manly and how much raw steak you eat. It is amazing. But I think that the reason I use that is because it was 90s, early 2000s, whenever it was, that idea of that sort of realm, the consciousness exists before it. It was very heavily based on heaven, but it did take some reincarnation into it, before and after, just like you're saying. Their idea of the afterlife, ignoring the love story, which you can't because you're going to cry, it's so but that when you describe what you're describing, that's what I'm seeing in my mind. Do you see where I'm coming from, Tobin? You've seen it. The idea of the consciousness preceding the physical body, and it's down to your choice if you want to go back and get better and go through this to be with, and everyone gets their own. And yeah, it seems, if you haven't seen it, Ron, What Dreams May Come, watch it with a wife.
Oh yeah,
she'll love it.
I've definitely seen it.
Yeah,
been 20 years, but yeah, I've definitely seen it.
Yeah.
But we can't. I don't think we can get underneath consciousness in our examination of reality, because even when you do a scientific experiment, you're not separate from there's the observer problem, right?
Don't go into the double slit, because that's not consciousness. It's just the fact that when you're looking at an electron, it's not like looking at the wall, because when you look at the wall, there's a billion fucking photons bouncing off it. When you look at one electron going through one double split, then you actually have to bounce an electron, or bounce that photon off an electron to get a thing back. So there is a physical interaction with the actual thing going through it. And waves to particles, and the whole idea of the waveform and the equation for that, we have an equation to show how we can break down the possibilities from what it was to where the possibilities of where it being. But when people talk about the double slit experiment and you can't look at it without changing it, that's not consciousness. Just you can't fucking look at it unless you hit it with a photon. You need to hit it with light to look at it. That's you're going to change it when you hit it.
That's not where I was going with that.
I'm sorry, but that was a rant.
I wasn't going to the double slit. I haven't heard that interpretation of the double slit. I'll admit that.
I just have trouble grasping eternity. The concept that any piece of me is eternal, or eternity in general.
I interrupted him, and I was rude and presupposed what he was going to say. It's the first time I've done it all night, and I'm ashamed of myself. But Ron, if you can finish, I apologize.
I'm just saying that it doesn't seem like we can get underneath consciousness. We can't even measure without being conscious of it. Being consciously interactive. Not the double slit idea thing is even. even when we run an experiment, you can't separate the observer.
No, you have to look at it and be awake to look at it. That's
Yeah.
yes. If you cannot observe something if you're not observing it. Well, I can't poo
Yeah.
if I'm not taking a poo. I can't sleep if I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, these are
Yeah.
just.
Well,
it's not
You
an
can't even measure
oxymoron.
it. Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
no, you can't measure it unless you're looking at it. And if you look at it, you
Can
change
I-
the measurement.
Can I ask?
So
a
is there
clarifying
anything there
question?
when we're not measuring? Yeah.
It's called a waveform.
Is this like saying that you can't actively observe something without running some sort of like interpretation or inquiry in your mind, or is it more like a if the tree falls and no one's around to hear it, does it really make a sound kind of proposition?
Well, it's more like we don't get actually direct access to physical reality except through the intermediation of our consciousness.
Do you know of the permutation of fields through the universe? The idea that there is no electron, there is an electron field that permeates the entire universe. There is no idea of philosophical nothing. Nothing is always got fields running through it. You know, there's this idea that particles are, you know, when we see it and we interact with it, that's our bump in the field. You know, I will send you a Royal Institution video lecture on fields. It really breaks it down. The Royal Institution is great for learning science and mathematics and physics and things like that, because their audience is made up from everyone from 10 to 50 from all levels, and that's what it's aimed at. And they get fucking amazing people in, and they break it down big, like sometimes their shit goes boom. You know, it's, and the lecture hall is where Isaac Newton and stuff fucking performed lectures. This lecture hall is the same one that has been going forever. It's called the Royal Institution, or the RI. And yeah, fields. Look out at the fields, not the Irish fields with the cows, but the fields that permeate. Right, it's getting late. Getting late. Ron, one question that you can ask everyone here, getting to know us all with all our experiences, as I'm repeating myself now because I've been drinking since the after party started. But would you have one question that you can ask the three of us? One opinion you would like to get from us, one thing, then we will do a shill for everybody and we will end.
I can't think of anything offhand. But I mean, I like this because I think better in dialogue. I can think in my own mind.
Yeah.
But I really think thoughts really arise for me by acting in dialogue with someone else.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I love this
Yeah,
format or doing this.
You can sit there with a tennis ball all day long going ba-bump catch, ba-bump catch, and you can get really good at that and do it with your fucking eyes closed. But the moment you add another person to that, you have no idea where that ball's going. You can't predict from your throw where it's going. You get a curveball, so to speak, to use an analogy. And I think it improves our hand-eye coordination, our mental gymnastics, whatever way you want to look at it. But yeah, I'm fucking rambling. So, Pixie, have you anything happening in your part of the world? Oh, she ran away. Go.
No, I don't have a channel. I don't stream. I just participate in conversations, and that's fun.
Always worthwhile having your input, Pixie. You're very level-headed, and I appreciate your approach to conversation. Tobin, other than building a barn, I love that beard, man. It's just striking me Amish tonight. Am I right with the barn now? What's happening over in your part of the world?
I'm getting closer to the end of my project that I'm putting up on YouTube. At least this first project that I've been working on. I have 3 more songs that I'm going to be uploading. But yeah, there's a bunch of new content I've been putting out. Kendra and some other anonymous players have worked with me, and I've just been enjoying crafting some music and making skits and making videos, like with just kind of funny stuff. Playing some rock and roll. And you can find me at Tobin Templeman. I mean, I go by my name.
Two things. I love the way you went. I play with Kendra and other anonymous people. So you just blew Kendra's cover, right? Second thing, seeing as you mentioned it, when we end, if your guitar is handy, I would love it if you could do us a wee jam out. Instrumental or something just for maybe 30, 40 seconds or so on the way out. If that's possible and no hassle. And Ron, while if that's possible, Tobin needs to stretch to get a guitar or tell me to go fuck myself, what would you, have you any streams coming up, any live hangouts coming up?
I'll be right.
Yeah, I think I haven't got anything definite. I've got at least one other person lined up. It'll either be Saturday or next Thursday. I'm not 100% on that. I miscommunicated with them. They thought we were doing it tonight. I didn't think we had set it up for this Thursday definitively, but I went back and read the conversation, and I can see where they thought that.
I had a conversation with this guy Richard that I mentioned earlier. I have known for nearly 3 years. I have done 4 full series with him, right, where they're 4 and 5 months a time, you know, these series. We go through old scripture. He gives me his definition. I ask him how he sees aliens, and then I tell him he's full of shit. It's really good fun. Right? Not 2 weeks ago, right, I asked him, could I swap our usual Tuesday stream to a Wednesday? He said, no bother. That's grand, because I had to do something. I met him in a live chat on the Monday night. I said to him, man, can we swap tomorrow to Wednesday? He was like, Robbie, we already said that's fine. I'll see you Wednesday. And Tuesday, he sent me 2 emails and turned up in the fucking hangout and was like, I'm in the hangout, where are you? And I jumped into the hangout and I was like, man, we talked about this. You made fun of me. We're doing it. And he went, and before I'd even finished, he went, we're doing it tomorrow, aren't we? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, right, talk to you tomorrow. See you there. It happens. I'm doing it years. It happens.
But, yeah, I got a person on Twitter called Dark Webmaster.
Oh, I like Dark Webmaster. The dark blue.
Wish to remain anonymous, which is fine. But I guess I had led him to believe we were doing it this evening. And then I was like, oh no, he saw your post and he's like, are we doing it this evening or not? And I'm like, oh, I didn't mean that. But
oh sorry. Shit, I'm gonna have to apologize to him. That's the blue, dark blue, black and blue sort of icon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like his Twitter posts, and I don't like Twitter at all, but I appreciate Dark Webmaster's honesty. So yeah.
But yeah,
I'll have to.
We might be able to set that. Him and I might do that like Saturday evening or next Thursday.
Saturday evening.
Other than that,
Saturday evening for you would be what, 4 or 5 p.m.
Well, it would be like. Well, we started at 6 Eastern, so for me it would be like 7 or 8 Eastern.
Oh, that would be brilliant, because my wee girl's here on the weekend. She goes to bed about 10, 11, which is 5, 6 o'clock Eastern, so she'll be in bed. If you do it after that, I'll definitely be there for that, because I'd like to hear more from Dark Webmaster. And get more to get
I've never talked to him. I've never talked to him other than he reached out after my tweet and said he'd be interested.
Tobin is nearly ready. Look at this man. He's got the guitar. He's got the turquoise. Oh, he's got the guitar. Oh.
All right, well, thank you, MathPig, for the stream. Thank you, Tobin, and thank you, Ron.
Always.
I subbed, so I will check it out. I'm gonna take my leave and finish up work.
No bother. Thank you very much, as always, Pixie, for coming in. I'll probably see you around Wild Hearts or around Richards or something like that there. We'll see you about.
Of course. Later days.
Hugs and kisses. Right. I will... Let me see. If I can swap... Right. I'm going to steal you from the top spot, Ronan. You're actually 4 times bigger than nearly than everyone else on everyone else's screen. But if I can do this right, I should be able to swap Tobin and give him center stage for a wee minute. There you go. You're still here. You're still here. Right. Tobin. Okay, he's already going. I'm going to mute the outro and he'll play over the outro for like a minute, but he's not even listening to this, Ron, is he? No.
What's up?
I says I'm going to put the outro video up, but I'm going to mute it and I will let you play for a minute or so on the outro video. So I just want to say thank you, Tobin. I love that guitar that you have. I thought it was the turquoisey one. Ron, thank you very much for coming tonight and putting up with all of us. I hope we came across as friendly. I hope you didn't feel it was like a den of lions. I definitely enjoyed the conversation myself.
Yep. That was a great time. I'm glad to be here. Glad to meet y'all.
Anytime.
Likewise.
Always welcome, man. Always welcome. So on that, again, I will say thank you, Ron. Tobin, play us out. If I can do this right and mute the outro, hopefully. And don't forget, people, think for yourselves. Go on ahead. Just you start, Tobin, and I'll sort this shit.
Yeah, there you go.